Good morning, friends. So I need to start with a confession that I struggled a bit trying to focus my thoughts for today's service. The first Sunday in June is designated as Pride Sunday for affirming ministries right across Canada in the United Church. So I was looking forward to showing off our rainbows and celebrating being an affirming ministry. And then George Floyd was killed. Protests began, and I was drawn into the pain, to the fear and outrage expressed by so many of my friends on social media. White friends, Black friends, Indigenous friends. And then somehow it just felt wrong to celebrate Pride in the midst of so much suffering and injustice. The hashtag silence is violence kept appearing in front of me, and it felt like a personal call in my own complacency in acknowledging my white privilege and my own sense of what can I do as a person who has claimed to be an ally with Pride. So I spent a fair bit of time this week reflecting on what it means to celebrate the expanding freedoms of the LGBTQ plus communities in light of the ongoing violence and oppression towards Black folks, Indigenous folks, and people of color. And then I read something sent to me by a friend which really helped to clarify some things for me with respect to our ongoing obligation as an affirming ministry and as members of the LGBTQ plus community, and that includes our allies. What I read was a message from Rainbow Railroad's executive director, Kamali Powell. Now, Rainbow Railroad, I discovered, is a Canadian charitable organization that helps LGBTQ individuals escape violence and persecution in their home countries. The message offered some historical information on state violence against people of color, not only in other countries, but right here in our own beloved Canada. And the message also contained an important challenge. Here's what he wrote. This brings to us our obligation as members and allies of the LGBTQ community to fight for racial justice, regardless of the color of our skin. Pride began as a protest against police brutality led by Black and Latinx drag queens and trans folks. On June 28, 1969, the police raided the Stonewall Inn in what was a routine occurrence of violence towards the LGBTQ community. But that night, the patrons of the Stonewall fought back, and for 5 more nights rioted against police brutality in the streets of Greenwich Village. In doing so, they helped birth the modern LGBTQ movement. So this Pride Month, we must honor our LGBTQ history by demanding justice for George Floyd and the countless others that came before him. Rainbow Railroad exists because our founders understood that the epidemic of violence against LGBTQ people internationally needed a response. And until LGBTQ people everywhere could live in peace, there would be no meaningful equality here at home. Now, we need to act on the principle that there cannot be peace for LGBTQ people of any background in a world where Black life is not fully valued. So, I hold that history and that challenge in front of us this morning, and I hold it alongside of the scripture passage that was shared just a moment ago, a passage that is most often read at wedding celebrations, but it holds a deep wisdom and truth about the nature of love. It's a passage that I listened to with more intensity this week as I reflected on my own call to love, to be love in this world. Love is more than well-intentioned thoughts, prayers, words. Love is nothing without action. So I invited several folks this week to share why being part of an affirming ministry matters to them. And as I listened to their words, loving, welcoming, affirming words, I heard action flowing out of every single one. Whatever we can do to share God's love, God's extravagant love, is one step in the right direction. So yes, let's celebrate the decisions we have made. Let's celebrate who we are and our commitment to learn and grow in our understanding of what it means to be affirming. We do indeed have so much to celebrate. And let's also remember the people who continue to live with the reality of exclusion, of discrimination, and of violence. We need to acknowledge that our work is not yet done. In fact, I believe it is really only just beginning. And so, I share with you now the wise words of our community members, and I thank each and every one of them for being courageous enough to share these with all of you.
Hi folks, Gary Joint here. My wife Penny and I have been members of McClure for 18 years. Why is being a part of an affirming ministry important to me? In all honesty, it's my church that's important to me. The fact that McClure is an affirming church with an affirming ministry is a bonus. We start our Sunday services by specifically declaring ourselves to be fully inclusive of all people, regardless of ability, age, ethnicity, gender identity, race, sexual orientation, or economic status. Sounds good, doesn't it? In my mind, we are all equal. I choose to see equal as equal in the eyes of my Creator. I'm feeling guilty. I'm the token old guy on the affirming committee. I'm retired. My wife and I have a comfortable place to live, food on the table, decent health care, and so far no COVID-19 bug. Is there a place for an affirming church and ministry in the lives of the many people who are affected negatively through no fault of their own? I pray there is. How will they find us? How will we find them? I know we have a website, but for me that isn't enough. I need the building and the folks of McClure in it. I miss my church, I miss my ministers, I miss familiar faces, feeling guilty again. Many marginalized folks don't have those things to miss. And finally, to those marginalized people, I may never really understand your plight, but I will stand with you. Affirming church, we have work to do. Amen.
Being a part of an affirming ministry is important to me because it demonstrates my love for my family members and friends. It's an outward representation of my beliefs. It is an action that helps to spread love and community.
Being part of an affirming ministry is important to me because all people are equal, unique, awesome, and worthy of love.
To me, affirming ministries makes me feel like I don't have to choose between faith and love. It means that I don't have to feel as though God won't love me if I'm with a certain person. I can share what's in my heart and God will welcome me with open arms and say, I accept you and I love you. No matter your age, race, gender, economic status, or sexual orientation, we're all equal in the eyes of God. That's what it means to me.
Being part of an affirming community is important to me because when I lived at a large community, we used to have a saying, if you're not here, you're missed. That's what being an affirming ministry means to me. One of the messages at the heart of Christianity is that we belong to one another. We are our brothers and our sisters' keepers. We are responsible for the well-being of each other. But more than that, we're not complete without each other. If you're not here, you're missed. We contribute to the well-being of each other. We're on a journey together. We help each other on the way. We also sometimes hinder each other too, but we can talk about that some other day. As a white heterosexual person who's grown up in the United Church, being part of an affirming ministry is important to me because it means that others are able to be here without hiding who they are. It means they're affirmed in being here, and their undisguised presence is a gift to the rest of the community.
Being part of an affirming ministry is important to me because I believe that where I choose to worship should have values that are in line with how I live my day-to-day life. I believe that it's important because I have had a lot of friends over the years who, after sharing their truth, have not felt welcome or valued in their own home church community, and now are resistant to organized religion as a whole. I believe that the place where I choose to worship, where we are all worshiping together, should be a place where everyone feels safe and feels welcome and feels valued, regardless of their story.
Being an affirming ministry is important to me because we still live in a world full of hate, and I want to be part of a community that fights that hatred. Being an affirming ministry means that we provide education and action to help better our community and the community of Saskatchewan. Being an affirming community means that we're a safe place for anyone, regardless of their sexual orientation, gender, identity, race, and economic status. There is so much beauty in celebrating diversity.
I thought being welcoming was affirming. It's not. Being affirming is welcoming.
Being part of an affirming ministry is important to me because it allows people to ask the tough questions. It encourages diversity and acceptance of all people. McClure being affirming allows diverse people to not only feel accepted, but also be lifted up and empowered. An affirming ministry is important to me because I believe all churches should take an affirming approach to ministry always. I am so grateful that McClure took this bold and public step in their ministry.